All right, welcome to the Monstrousitous Strength and Performance Podcast. This is episode one. I'm expecting our guest to be on here just very shortly. Um, his name is David Snedden. He's a college strength coach at this moment. He's also a college professor teaching strength and conditioning courses up at a small college up in Chicago. He'll be able to talk to us a lot about a lot of different training things. I wanted to bring on someone who's currently in the game, and Dave is about as in the game as you can get right now. So we're talking about a lot of the differences in training between males and females, since he deals predominantly with female athletes. Also, be dealing with just how his philosophy's changed over the years, and just cutting up because Dave's a damn good friend. So this is going to be a good one. So give me a pause for a second, and we'll be up and rolling. Hey, what's up, Dave? Can you hear me okay?
Hello,
Can you
Governor.
hear me? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Get out and then pop back in and see what fixes it.
Are you muted on your end? Because I see you. I see your
No,
lips, but I hear no.
I'm not muted. Not muted.
What up?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. So you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. You got a wicked ass mustache going on right now. You look like you lived inside of a cave for about a year with the dude that hosts My Classic Car on TV. Have you been hanging out with him?
I've never seen My Classic Car.
You ought to see it. It's a fantastic show. Anyway, I'm coining this thing that we're doing today, Monstrousitous U. We're going to teach people. This is going to be their university for the day, mostly because I've got a university professor on here who could talk to us about some things. But first,
Okay.
Dave, I'd like you to introduce yourself.
I'm David Snedden. I was at one point in time Jeff's assistant back in the day at SEMO. I've spent 4 years after working with Jeff and graduating from SEMO. I spent 4 years in minor league baseball as a strength and conditioning coach. Got a couple stops interning at a couple different colleges in the off season. I've worked private setting, big box gyms, PT clinic briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I've been the last 4 years. I've been the strength and conditioning coach for women's hoops at Governor State University. Brief stint working with middle school kids at a private facility, and then in addition to all of that, I am also teaching exercise science 420, which is exercise program design at North Central College. Go Cardinals! Unfortunately, they lost on Friday in the Natty, so
That's too bad.
couldn't go back to back.
Gotcha, man. Gotcha. So talk to me about teaching. What's good about it? What's bad about it? What could you, if you could change anything, what would you do?
Oh man, what's
Let's start
good
with what's
about
good.
it?
Yeah, what's good about dealing with seniors in college that think they know everything?
Man, I don't know. I had a really good group of students this semester. All of my students, with the exception of one, were going into some sort of medical field. So mostly PTs. I had one OT, one Chiro, I think one ATEP, and then one who actually wanted to be a strength coach.
Okay.
So I had a bunch of students that were really dedicated to getting good grades because their next step depends on having a 4.0, 3.8 GPA.
Yep.
I don't know what it takes to get into PT school, but
Yeah, it's pretty high up there. You got to be pretty dedicated. It's basically medical school. Am I correct? It's basically a med school.
yeah, I mean, essentially when you're done, I believe it's an allied health profession at the end of the day. So
Cool.
I was very fortunate with that side. Some of the challenges were trying to translate strength and conditioning, especially like training athletes,
Yep.
to a group of students who aren't super interested in it. That's not their strength. That's not what they're super interested in. They're more interested in all right, you got hurt. How do I get you back to playing your sport? So trying to translate that. And then it was my first semester. So you remember how bad I was at coaching my first semester. It wasn't that bad because I had all of that experience that I could draw from.
Yeah.
But there were days where like, I'm awesome. And then there were days where it's like, I'm really bad at this stuff. So it's figuring that out and getting like having to refamiliarize myself with a lot of the material.
Yep.
You'd be surprised at how much we don't use as strength coaches. Just because we use it, but we don't have to go and explain energy systems.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I don't think I've ever written a yearly plan. Like actually sat down.
Yeah, same here. I don't think I've ever mapped out and drawn from year to year. Like I'll block out general things that we're going to work on during that time, but I'm not going to pre-plan percentages or anything like that. And a lot of that comes when I start to see what I've got. If that makes any sense.
No, it makes
I know my
sense.
attributes. I know how I want to sequence attributes, but other than that, I don't pre-plan, weekly volumes ahead of time like that. I mean, it's just not something I've ever done. I'd love to know how, but I don't.
Yeah, well, for my students, I didn't really have them do like percentages in our yearly plan. Yep. I didn't think that was important. Yeah, what I had them focus on was I had them use whatever terminology they wanted. The NSCA uses Matveyev's terminology for the different seasons.
The Matveyev is what? So refresh us all. What's Matveyev?
His is
it general? Is it gas? Okay.
I mean, gas is everything. That's who wrote gas? General adaptation syndrome. I forgot who coined that one. But no, his like where instead of like accumulation, transmutation, realization, it's preparatory phase, first transition phase.
Yep.
I forgot what he uses for preseason, second transition, in season, postseason.
Gotcha.
So that's the terminology.
I mean, everyone's got their own thing, and that's kind of the more difficult part. Is all these guys with their PhDs overseas, all they have is their own terminology, and then you bring it home to the States, and everyone's like, "Oh, we're like Vampa." Well, like you're not at all like Vampa. You don't teach it like how he does even in the book. So it's that's kind of the more struggles that I have with all that. It's everyone's got their own rhyme and flavor to it. So what's it matter? We could all use it.
Yeah.
You're going to get stronger here. You're going to get more powerful here. You're going to get faster. I don't understand how else you could say it.
I actually think on all of my students' final projects, they went super simple, and they went off season, preseason, in season, postseason.
And is that how you grew up doing it? Yep. Is that how you got into it doing? Yeah. And how's that changed since you started? Since we started together? How have things changed for you? So I've seen some programs here and there, but I can't really get inside your head. So spill your head, open it up.
What do you mean? What do you mean? In what way have things changed?
I mean, in what way do you look at how you set out a program in 2011 versus you look at it in 2021 when you go out to do the actual programming for it?
Not much has changed, honestly.
So what's your
I
process
still-
then? Explain what's the process then?
So I look at where I'm at in like what one year is it? Is it preseason, postseason, off season? How many weeks do I have?
Yep.
How many days a week do I get to train? How many hours each day do I have to train with my athletes? And then from there,
Mm-hmm.
I know, okay, so right now I'm in season, my girls. I get 2 days.
Yep.
So we play Wednesday, Saturday, typically. Holidays throw that schedule through the ringer. But typically we're
Mhm.
Wednesday, Saturday. So we lift Mondays and Thursdays. So I make Mondays my heavy day because they're coming off of a day of rest. And then we lift in the morning. So we have 24, 48. We have like 60 hours before we play our game, give or take.
Gotcha.
From lift to game day. And then the day after the game, it depends on what I do. I kind of have one or two athletes that I use as my pulse.
Yep.
So they're the ones that if they're tired, everybody's tired.
Yeah, absolutely.
So depending on how athletes are feeling coming in on Thursday morning dictates. Thursday, doing traditional dynamic warm up and mobility drills and activation drills, things like that. It's 15, 20 minutes on a bike or elliptical. Like let's get some blood flowing to our muscles. Just try to get everything loose because they're usually typically pretty sore. Like last
I lost you there, bud. I'm losing your voice, man. Back it up. Let's try it again. And you're frozen. You're frozen, man. You there? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Hey, we lost Dave there for a second. He's in the butthole of Illinois. Assuming that Illinois slipped upside down, it's called Chicago. We can all expect there to be things happening up there with all the dipshittery of the local Chicago. Oh, never mind. I was talking bad about your city again.
Yeah, I figured you were going to talk about your program, so I was trying to pull it up. I think my internet got a little laggy.
Yeah, I blamed it on the city of Chicago being the butthole of Illinois. If you flip it up on its head,
It probably is. So I forgot. So what I was talking about is like last week we played overtime. So they came in, like my coach wanted to cancel weights. I said, hey, let's not cancel weights. Let's come in and do like 20, 30 minutes on the bike.
Yep.
So we did that. I did 20, 30 minutes. I wanted them at like 80 RPMs, the resistance of 5, just something to give them a little instead of just being lazy. And then we went to the gym and did 20 minutes of yoga. I use that term loosely because I didn't actually do yoga with them. I know some yoga moves and some like hip mobility stuff. So it was all mobility and stretching because they were. I had, I think, 3 girls that played. I had one girl that played 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
One girl that played 43, and I think my other 2 starters both played 35 plus.
Yeah, they're pretty gassed. They're pretty tired.
So, and then I had one girl that played 2 minutes, and she looked at me and said, "Hey, I want to lift today." I said, "All right, here's." I kept it simple because I have a couple girls that are injured, and their workout was leg press, leg curl, leg extension, bench press, row.
Yep.
Just keep it simple. So I'm with my current situation, I'm really restricted on an equipment standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 1 rack.
Okay.
I have dumbbells 5 through 100, 2 adjustable benches, 2 flat benches, bands, and one of the little mini cable crossovers.
Gotcha.
So I keep it, and I have access to one of every machine. I try not to use the machines outside of injury.
Yeah.
So it's and med balls. It's just I had to learn to get creative with my programming.
Yep.
But if I
Probably
in
the
a
best situations that you can ever be in. I remember when I was at Yale. I mean, we had a good facility at Yale, but I had men's light crew, and we were down in the crew room, and because they're rowers, we're in the crew room doing circuits, and they got the old concrete filled barbells and concrete filled dumbbells, and then that's what we worked with. It was awesome though. They jump up on pipes and do pull ups and stuff. I mean, it was pretty neat, but it makes you a lot better with what you have to actually deal with.
yeah, and then as of like if I had the ideal perfect situation, I got all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
I always go back to Joe Ken's tier system.
Yep.
At least to how I go about laying out my workouts on a day-to-day basis. I'm a big concurrent guy.
Yep. Meaning
It's
what?
easy. Huh?
Meaning what?
Meaning I always at no matter the time of the year, we're always working on strength, we're always working on power,
Mm-hmm.
and then hypertrophy, which
Gotcha.
to me, hypertrophy for an athlete is a side effect. I'm not chasing necessarily bigger muscles. Is a bigger muscle stronger muscle? Not necessarily.
True.
It has the ability to be a stronger muscle, but as of hypertrophy, I'm looking for building some padding from impact
Mm-hmm.
and resiliency from injury. Like, so outside of my 2 or 3 big movements every day, everything after that's high volume.
Yep.
Let's just get reps in and make sure we're addressing, your adductors, your lats, your shoulder muscles, the little things that support all
stuff
the
that keep you together, isn't it? It's the stuff that keeps you together.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. Since you've dealt with a gamut of people, you've dealt with the pro athletes, the Division I and Division III. What's the difference between them? The physical, put the physical aside, but what's the difference in terms of like their overall makeup and willingness to do the work?
Man, it depends on the personality. So in pro ball, what I found is the guys that were going to make it no matter what could give 2 shits about the weight room.
Yeah.
And they were the ones that were pulling teeth, were the guys that were kind of not going to make it or borderline guys. They were going to do everything it took to get there. They're going to come in, they're going to just do their work. They looked at it as this is just part of the process. What can I do to get better? So those were, and I still talk to a few of those guys. Every so often I'll pop in and say, hey, how are the kids doing?
Mm-hmm.
I have some good relationships with those where the guys that made it, I don't talk to any of them. They just didn't spend the time in the weight room, and I was pulling teeth just to get them to show up.
Yeah.
Division I, man, with you, I mean, you saw because I worked with you, it was kind of the same deal. Like the kids that were truly blessed and had a chance to go play at the next level were the ones that you had to kind of get on to get them to put the work. I don't know. Do we have anybody at SEMO that made it?
Not out of that group. The following group, though, did. Like the following freshman class, the 2011 freshman class, I believe, did.
Okay, so after
that receiver, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He wasn't there for summer when I was leaving, but the receiver that got drafted by the Rams.
Right, but like I think Tyler Brock, like, when he wanted to be, he was the best student and the best athlete in the room.
Yep.
And then you look at like the Pfeiffers, Colt, and all those guys who were just going to show up and just work.
Yep.
Because that's who they were.
Yeah. I think a lot of it came down with the culture that we developed over 3 years because they knew I wasn't going to back down an inch. It didn't matter how much how stupid they could have acted. It didn't faze me.
No. And then on the baseball side, we had Trent and Shea.
Yeah, Shea was in the majors for a while.
Yeah. Trent just fell on a bad string of bad luck injuries. Yep. And then
you had I can't remember. Derek also was in with the Cardinals and did really well in single A ball, and then kind of got passed over for a draft pick that was higher than him. So but still, I mean, all those. What are you going to do? But all those guys again, I don't think that was a culture necessarily that was developed on super hard work, coming from the top of the head coach. When the head coach changed, I think that made a big difference with that as next classes coming in.
Yeah. No, but those guys, they just showed up and just did work.
Yep.
They didn't cause trouble. I'm just here to work.
Yeah. I think a lot of that's the difference within a sport. I think baseball guys generally are pretty awesome to work with. Football is generally awesome to work with. Basketball is kind of a toss of the coin. It really just depends on the class you get and the coach that you have. And so on. Softball is usually generally a pretty hard-working team. Women's basketball, generally, from what I've dealt with, they're absolutely crazy. They'll generally work unless the head coach just doesn't value it. I really think that's what comes down from the top. So I think what sounds like is your situation is pretty good with your head coach because she really values it.
Yeah. I don't know if I was her first hire, but I was – because she only hired – there's only 3 assistants.
Yep.
But even before she took this position, she thought she was getting a different job, and she was already working on bringing me in to that position before the one she wound up taking because she got passed over for that first one.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I wasn't the first phone call, because the other 2, you got to hire your assistants first, but I think those were already no-brainers before she even called me.
Yep. So what's the difference between males and female athletes, in your opinion, since you've dealt with more female athletes in the last several years than what you've dealt with males? I'd like to know what do you think the difference is?
One, there's no ego.
Yep.
So you don't have to deal with like, hey, your weight is your weight for a reason, and you don't have them trying to load it up every day. The bigger struggle I've had with female athletes, at least in my current position, is getting them to realize they're stronger than they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than they think they are.
Absolutely.
The biggest change to that for me was I got the rack this year. It's the first year I've had a rack.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, hey, before you guys were like complaining about doing 50-pound goblet squats.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if we had a rack, you're starting at 45.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, no. It
there's no
does
question
seem
now.
amazing. Like, oh, you got 100 pounds on there? Like, see? And now I think they realize it. But if you've ever tried, what's the most you've ever tried to goblet squat?
Me personally?
Yeah.
The biggest I have is a 98-pound bell. So there you go.
I mean,
it never crossed my mind is kind of the question. But you give me 10 years ago and that question again, it's probably going to be something stupid. Because I'll just do it regardless. Like, I guess the question, it's more along the lines of what's there, what's available, and do I feel like hurting my back tomorrow?
Yeah. The most I've goblet squatted is 120.
Okay.
And it just becomes anything more than like 100-pound dumbbell just becomes so unwieldy to hold.
Yep.
And the 120-pound dumbbell went from my chin to like the middle of my thigh. So it just gets awkward.
Yep.
And I think that's the bigger issue with the goblet squat pieces. It's just so awkward to hold that way.
But it's also a great tool, especially when you begin teaching them. It's great, great squat mechanics.
Yeah.
It's about how to be able to counterbalance a weight and push your hips back. Not so much where it's stupid and you feel like that you're Chuck Vogelpohl, but it's in a suit. But it teaches you. How to use your body, how to use your leverages effectively, though.
Yeah, absolutely. With when I was a middle school kids, it was goblet squats all day.
Yep.
And if they could get to the 50-pound dumbbell limit we had, they switched over to
absolutely
front racks.
Absolutely. Huh.
It's
interesting.
And the biggest thing I think, like I had volleyball as the first team. That was your baby.
Yep.
And you handed me volleyball, and I never had any issues with that group.
Yep.
They just worked.
Yeah, they were a hardworking group. Again, they came down from the top. Their head coach was an absolute maniac. But she thought it was important. Like I remember the day I interviewed for that job, she was on the committee, and she's like, I start showing her some of the things that I've done, and there's a pool workout in there. She's like, "Oh, pool workout? No." She brings me in there, makes these girls go through a pool workout while I'm there for that because they're already in the building. All right, well, cool. We'll go do this. And after the worst, it's like, how do y'all feel? Yeah, that was good. It was real interesting though, kind of a on the job interview kind of training. It was
Yeah.
neat.
Just fed to the wolves.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's and like the biggest thing I learned, because when I got to you, I had coached high school football
Yep.
and high school wrestling and some high school weight room stuff, and I was loud, I was obnoxious, I
Oh
would
yeah.
yell at them.
Yes, you
And
were.
working with female athletes, the biggest thing I learned is like you can't yell at them. It just doesn't. You can, but it doesn't work if that's who you are all the time. At least for me, maybe
Yeah.
for you it was different, but I tried not to yell at them unless they were really
Yeah, you're really off base.
like in the 4 years I've been with this team, with this group, I've had to yell at them. I've lost my temper with them once.
Yep.
And then everyone looked at me like, what's going on? And I looked at my senior and like, Kai, you've been with me for 3 years. How many times have I yelled? She's like, that's probably the first time I've heard you actually lose your temper.
Yeah.
I was like, so if I'm doing this, there's a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then-
I feel like with myself, there's varying levels of it. Here's something that it was a conversation I had with my associate AD up at Canisius. And granted, every team got the same version of me in terms of the 4-letter words I like to use. And she calls me on the office phone one day, and she's like, Jeff, softball coach Rabble, he's got a request. Just hear me out. She's like, okay, can you please stop saying fuck to the girls? I'm like, yeah, I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. I was just excited. I mean, it's just the word that comes out. Like women's basketball heard it all the time out of me. I'd walk in there, let's fucking go. It's a big fucking day. And they'd all start to say the same thing. But with softballs requested me to stop using the F word around those girls. I thought it was pretty funny. So I stopped it. It wasn't a big deal. Like they never got yelled at though.
Yeah. Yeah. There's being loud and then there's yelling at them.
It's a difference. Oh yeah. Big time
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. Something I picked up in baseball is we were often the first face they saw for the day.
Yep.
And so we set the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fine line at that level between being a cheerleader and being excited.
Yep, absolutely. At some point, people see through it. You're either being yourself or you're not.
Yeah, but no, just But if you came in all Captain Mopey, it was like, you had some dinosaur that's been around the game. Like you did.
I got you, man.
Yeah.
So, like, what's been the hardest lesson for you to learn as a coach?
First part is how to coach.
Okay.
I got motherfucked a couple times. I think it was probably a weekly occurrence for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's the second biggest hardest lesson to learn is knowing when to pull back and understand, developing that feel for, they're beat up and tired today.
Yep.
Like, coach, they came from practice and they screwed up and coach had them run for 40 minutes.
Yep.
So
that was a tough one.
Learning that is knowing when what's on that piece of paper is no good for that day is probably the second biggest lesson I learned.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. The first is the hypothetical question.
Okay.
And I asked this to my middle school kids the other day, and they all looked at me like I had 3 eyes. So this is a hypothetical. I'd like you to answer this. You got swallowed by a giant whale like Pinocchio.
Okay.
You have a book of wet matches, a VHS copy of the very first season of the Days of Our Lives, and a pet tiger. How do you get out of the whale? It's a deep one, isn't it? Should have saved this for last. Damn.
I got wet matches.
Yep. The VHS box copy of the very first season of These Are the Days of Our Lives.
I suppose I hop on the back of that tiger.
Yep.
And give him the old oil check.
Interesting. And then what?
Hold on for dear life because that tiger's gonna rip through that whale.
Yep. I kind of thought the same thing. I think it came to my mind later on is that you've got all these VHS copies and you could pull the ribbon out of them, right? Do wet matches ever dry? That's the first thing I've got here.
That was my initial thought is film is flammable.
Yes.
But I don't know if you could get enough of a spark off the wet matches to light the film.
Yeah. So I wonder, could I strangle the tiger with the film, kill him, then I could essentially roast him inside of the whale. The whale would smell it, would get hungry, he'd open up, and maybe I can just walk out. But I wonder, I don't really have a good answer to this one. I think it's a good question. I think every kid should be asked this question at some point because you never know when you're going to become Pinocchio. No? No?
Jeff, how many times have you wanted to feed your kids to a whale?
Just once. Just once. But not an orca. Definitely like a blue whale. So I know they got a chance.
Right. An orca might actually eat you, not just swallow you whole.
That's true. That's true. Last one, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Funniest strength conditioning moment of your career.
Oh, boy. I got some funny ones from baseball. I got a phone call at 3 a.m. from the hotel staff, and I went to pick it up. It woke me up. I went to pick it up, and they were gone by then. And I found out the next morning one of my players was picked up by the police, wandering downtown, missing all of his clothes.
Holy crap!
Yeah, we're still not sure what happened. There was a gentleman's club involved. And we weren't in exactly the safest city in Ohio. But probably getting choked out by you.
What was that last part?
Probably getting choked out by you.
How did this happen? I would like you to walk me through this because you were the one that felt it. And I don't think I've ever heard it from your perspective.
Well, I don't know when it started. Sometime during that second semester, every time you would walk past my desk behind me, you would try to choke me out and never quite were able to pull it off.
Yep.
That one day during summer conditioning with football, we're standing out there, and next thing I know, I have a boa constrictor around my neck. And then I'm trying to break it and stay tight, and everything goes black. And then I wake up on the ground, rolling side to side. With no recollection of how long I was out for, which I'm pretty sure is only a couple seconds.
Yeah, it was only a couple seconds. I remember that because I let you went limp, so I just kind of just laid you down. And 75 football guys are looking at with their jaws dropped, like, what the hell just happened to him? I thought it was pretty awesome.
I actually might have the video of this still somewhere. Then you went grocery shopping that day.
Okay.
No,
what did you throw at me? I don't remember.
And I was sitting on the balcony waiting for you to come, and I had an egg in my hand, and you walked up. I said, Jeff, how do you like your eggs? And I said, I like mine scrambled, and threw an egg that was going to land right on your head. You looked at it, took one big step backwards, and splat right on the concrete. And I'm pretty sure that egg might have fried that day.
Mine was hotter than hell, man. It was a hot summer. Well, shit. Well, Dave, tell people how they can reach you. Are you on social media? Are you still on?
You can find me on Instagram at Phenoms Only. I I have a Twitter. I don't use it, so I don't even know
Yep.
what that is anymore. I think it is
Yep.
Phenoms Only. David Snedden on Facebook. LinkedIn, you can find me by my name. And other than that, that's where you can find me.
Gotcha, man. I appreciate you coming in on this with me. I think we're going to reconnect next week with an added member of the trio. Bring Mr. Johnny Buck on. So it's going to be a lot more interesting conversation for sure. But I'm glad we got an opportunity to do this.
Buck Nasty. Does he still
Thanks,
use
buddy.
that at all?
Huh, what's that?
Does he still use Buck Nasty?
He used a lot of things. But I appreciate you being on the inaugural Monstrousitous you, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we should keep doing this and maybe throw in some more, delve into some science.
That'd be great. I don't believe in science, but I do believe in hard work and dedication, by God.
All right, Jeff. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah, brother. Thank you, man.
Later.
Bye.